Today is Monday, December 2. I'm Pastor Anthony, and this is Wilderness Wanderings. Today our text comes from Ruth 1 and Matthew 1. First from Ruth. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelek. His wife's name was Naomi. And the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Kilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, Judah. And they went to Moab and lived there. Now Elimelek, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, and named Orpah, and the other named Ruth. After they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Kilion also died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. That's Ruth 1, verses 1 to 5. And then also a pair of verses from Matthew. Salmon, the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab. Boaz, the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. Obed, the father of Jesse, and Jesse, the father of King David. That's Matthew 1, verses 5 to 6, and we have another verse from Matthew 1, verse 21. These words, She, that is Mary, will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. This Advent season, we'll be walking through the short 4-chapter Old Testament book of Ruth. Matthew includes Ruth in his genealogy of Jesus at the opening of his gospel. She is fully part of the Christmas story, along with 3 other women. But why is she there? Perhaps it is because each of the women included tells a unique story of God's salvation, and not of the sort that we usually consider. Matthew tells us through the angel's words to Joseph that the baby born to Joseph and Mary is to be named Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. When we hear this, we get the sense that Jesus has come to clear away our record of sin in the court of God's law, so that when we stand at the pearly gates and God says, "Why ought I let you into my heaven?" we can point to Jesus and get through to eternal bliss. Now, this is a true part of the story indeed, but it is a horribly flat reduction of the story at the same time. It is unable to bear the weight of real human lives. If the lives we live equate to nothing more than a cold courtroom scene where, with the right passcode, Jesus, we can get through to an equally sterile eternity of who knows what, well, if that's all it is, I'm not sure I want in. No, if we are to have a hope that we can hang on to and hold out to others, it has to be a little thicker soup than that. Thanks be to God, the soup is indeed thicker, chunky even, with real meat and vegetables. The women of Matthew's genealogy put some flesh on these bones of Jesus saving his people from sin, so that we can understand a bit better what it actually looks like. Not just what salvation looks like at the end of our lives before the judgment of God, but also what salvation looks like now, here, in the real unresolved messes of our human lives. Jesus saving his people from sin includes the legal case, yes, but also the effects of sin and the curse on all of creation, including on our marriages, families, workplaces, our moves, and more. The opening verses of Ruth set the stage for this holistic picture of redemption. It will take place in the life of a woman who's lost everything, her home country, her husband, her sons, and with these men also her provision, security, and place in society. Her plight is not because of any sin that she has committed, we note, but simply because of her life in a yet sin-broken and cursed creation. Her sons' names mean sickness and wasting away. These are the impacts of sin on Naomi's life. So in the life of this refugee who has lost everything, can God's salvation come? Join us as we find out how. And as you journey on, go with God's blessing. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you wherever He may send you. May He guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storm. May He bring you home rejoicing at the wonders He has shown you. May He bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors.